not going to be dishonest. I didn't think Matthew Stafford was going to sign with the Steelers. I more wanted it to happen than expected it to happen.
He traded to the Steelers, yes.
More wanted it to happen than expected it to happen. I thought it was a long shot the entire time. I thought you made compelling points about how the Raiders would be a more attractive team for him because of indoors and Tom Brady and Chip Kelly there now and all of that. So I wanted it to happen. I wanted to believe when you hear Adam Schefter and these other insiders connect the Steelers, and when people would come on with us this week and say, hey, let's not rule it out. Let's not say it's dead on arrival. It's got no shot. I wanted to cling to that hope because I think without him, the season is hopeless. And I hate having, even before free agency starts in a few days, and we're still 2 months away from the draft, I hate being that guy. But that's honestly how I feel about them. He was the one player out there who I thought could switch things up, change the narrative, and actually cause me to go in to a Steelers season now with renewed hope that what we've been getting year after year was going to turn into something different. And so now that that door has been slammed shut, I don't know what to say that's going to get people excited, optimistic, or thinking positively about this next season. Austin's in here in the changeover before the show telling me that he preferred Fields to Stafford the entire time because he thinks if Fields is the Steelers quarterback, they'll go 6-11.
Was he willing to put his money where his mouth was?
He was not. I wanted him to make a wager on that, and he was uninterested in it. I don't think they're going to, depending on which quarterback they pick, Wilson or Fields, or both, I guess, could still come back. I don't think they're going to turn into one of the dregs of the NFL team for a year. And I also think they have no shot at competing for anything of real significance with those guys. So that's why this is a real Debbie Downer news story for me on a Friday. I just wanted that flicker of hope that it could happen to take me into the weekend, keep this alive for a few more days for me, and allow for me to dream that this dude could come in here on a white horse and save the Steelers' run of mediocrity.
I think what you're really speaking to is something that I've seen written about and spoken about by multiple people in multiple different places, more or less all of it locally, because I don't think nationally people feel this way because there's still this whole Tomlin voodoo. He'll get them to 10-7. They're going to be a tough out. They're never really a tough out anymore in the playoffs. There is a nihilism that has crept in under or like spread over the fan base, sort of like a fog. And I count myself certainly as somebody affected by it. Stafford would have cut through that, I admit, because his best is still good enough to beat anybody on any given Sunday, which he almost did to the reigning Super Bowl champions to knock them off. But now that he is off the table, and you know me, I've still been a play the long game, ultimately, try to find your quarterback in a much better class in 2026. But for the purposes of 2025, man, how could you not be nihilistic? You're hearing reports from Jerry Dulac, the most tenured team insider, that they are genuinely interested, mainly because Mike Tomlin loves the guy, in bringing back Najee Harris if they can get the price right, unless Harris really wants to, explore free agency in the truest sense. You're hearing the owner and everybody else associated with the team, the general manager, the people who are talking, telegraph that they would like to bring back one of two, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, even though nobody in the fan base wants Wilson back.
And then the one dark horse candidate that Schefter threw out on the Pardon My Take podcast today for the Steelers was Aaron Rodgers,
who apparently is the New York Giants' new apple of their eye.
Right, but okay, so that would be the Steelers' plan B if they can't re-sign one of their own?
Is a guy who would, if Tomlin occasionally blanched in private about like maybe the amount of say-so Roethlisberger had, Rodgers would drive him insane. I don't care that they made googly eyes at each other 5 years ago or whatever it was, Poni. The nihilism's creeping in because nothing they've done or nothing they've been connected to being interested in this offseason that's now still on the table is anything but the same old, same old. And we've now seen the fruits of the same old for enough years in a row, and we all know the landscape of the AFC around them to know that they're not going to get anything different. And so I think we're in a pretty unique position just because they tried something different last year with Fields and with Wilson, and it ultimately led them to the same destination that we haven't been in. And that's just that people are in a full-on rut. The one lifeline they had doesn't exist now with this Stafford re-up. And I think people are just, it's almost like playing out the string. You know how you feel like watching a baseball game between two bad teams in mid-August that aren't going anywhere, right? Like you might watch it because it's baseball and it's sports, but there's nothing actually happening there of substance. That's how I think a lot of people are going to approach
Chris,
their season.
That's like with 115 baseball games in the rearview mirror. This is the start of the offseason.
Pony,
you're not supposed to feel that way right now.
No, you're not. You're supposed to feel like, hey, my team's going to wheel and deal and make moves. But
they've made no changes to their coaching staff.
Correct.
Tomlin said changes at every level. None of that has happened other than one linebackers coach leaving on his own volition and one secondary coach getting swapped out to bring another guy back to the organization who worked for him before. Look, I don't usually have delusions of grandeur with them where I think even though Omar Khan and this administration has acted differently, that they're going to always give me these huge, gigantic, seismic moves. But what I also don't think is fair to accept is just them running it back.
That's what they want to do, though.
Tomlin stood up there after the season was over. Was like, I don't believe in the definition of insanity and doing the same things and expecting different results. Well, right now it feels like that.
You know what the worst part?
It feels like that's going to happen.
Do you know what the worst part is, though? Like, if you and I had the chance, if some act of God placed him in this chair where my backpack is currently sitting between the two of us right now, and he said, fellas, I don't like you. You guys are sick of me, but for 20 minutes, I will answer your questions. To the best of my ability. If I asked him, Mike, why should anybody believe that right now, given what you haven't done and what you haven't said, things will be different next year? He wouldn't have a good answer other than his usual boilerplate. I believe in myself and I believe in the guys in that room.